challenge ourselves, and we challenge ourselves internally, both Israelis and Arabs within ourselves, on the conflict. They are emotive subjects, and they do weigh you down in some way. It's a very, very heavy topic. It's a very complex issue, and I think as the 4 months progressed, that was very, very clear to us, and the psychological barriers that are between the two sides also were really highlighted. And I think that through this program, we actually managed to get out of those psychological barriers and go and deconstruct them, and deconstruct our thoughts on them, and what we previously had and what we hope to achieve in the future when going back to our respective homes. Another thing that was particularly interesting was something that Adam and I also did, and I'm sure the other fellows did, was we were watching a documentary which Dr. Aaron Bregman, who is our supervisor and a great one at that, created, and we were watching this documentary and tried to exchange roles. I arguing for the Israeli side, and Adam for the Palestinians, and it was one of the hardest things, I think, to do, to really get into the role and try and see it from the other perspective, and try to kind of merge and see how we can challenge this and how we can find compromise, because it is all about compromise at the end of the day. I think the best thing that we got out of this is basically it's in some ways there are untouchable aspects to it, talking about final status issues, talking about certain sensitivities that we have, accepting each other's narratives. It was very, very healthy and very reassuring to hear the other side, and to hear that we basically wanted the same thing. We wanted a peaceful resolution. We wanted to, and it's not all rosy, but there are ways of achieving it. Coexistence can happen, dialogue can happen, and let's hope there's political will to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. We have a couple of minutes, and I'd like to ask you both two things. First of all, in your discussions last night with your fellow Atkin fellows, was your conclusion optimistic or pessimistic? Could you even use those terms? And also, how you see yourselves over the next few years. What would be your ideal way of playing a leadership role in trying to not just move the peace process forward, but building a new society based on a new relationship? Can I ask you, Adelia?
I'll try to answer your first question by explaining that when the first Atkin couples arrived in London, not long after Operation Cast Lead started, and when the current Atkin fellows arrived in London, it was during the current negotiations. So this is a mini reflection of the rapid changement in the Middle East. I cannot say that we've reached a consensus whether we can be optimistic or pessimistic, but as Churchill used to say, I'm an optimist. It doesn't seem to be much use to be anything else. We didn't break down the hardcore issues of the conflict, and we leave it to the leaders. However, we did reach a disagreement about whether it is the public opinion or the public indifference that has caused the current stalemate, or is it a lack of leadership in our region that didn't allow any breakthrough in the last 2 decades. Sorry. I think the fact that we're here means that we are all enhanced with a sense of a mission, a devotion, a will to take part in shaping our own future, our own country's future. The fellows are comprised from journalists, environmentalists, criminologists, socialists, former advisors to policymakers. And if I've forgotten somebody, I do apologize. None of us came with a blueprint about how the future of the region is going to look like. But we are in hands with a sense of a mission and devotion. And I think what we're struggling now is how to translate it into practical steps. I have decided to stay in London and to embed myself with the government of Israel, to be able to pick from within about the process of decision making and see how can I bring a refreshing point of view to the situation. Some decided to come back and establish a different NGO, a new civil movement driven from the assumption that people-to-people initiative is currently what we need, or we have to strengthen and come up with a refreshing new way of looking on things. And I think that I don't know where the future will bring me, but if I will be seated around a negotiation table, I will have Alia in my mind, I will have Odey, I will have Amal, and I will have all the people that I was fortunate to meet with, and I will always take that into consideration. And I think that's very, very important. Thank you.
Regarding the optimistic, pessimistic point, I think we didn't reach a consensus on that, but I mean, there is pessimism and there is optimistic. You just have to stay realistic, I think, and have realistic expectations of what the complexities of of this conflict and what we need to do to actually resolve it, and what our leaders and the public also needs to do to try and temper the conflict and try to work towards a solution. I'd like to be optimistic, and I'd like to think that there is some kind of in the future we can actually see a Palestinian state alongside an Israeli state in peace and security, to have stereotypes vanish along the years, and I think that's what we suffer from most. I think the most important thing is education in this. We have to explore our curricula. We have to both Israeli and Arab curricula, and have a new way of teaching things about the conflict, teach the other side. I think it will help a lot in trying to move things forward, because a lot of the time we're kind of encased in our own perceptions of it, and it's a tough issue, of course, to explore, but if we open our minds a bit, allow that to happen in our classrooms amongst the new generation, I think slowly we're going to find something, and we're going to hopefully develop a new understanding of the Middle East, not somewhere that is, scarred with conflict, but something that that's actually healing and actually work for something that can actually work for generations in the future, and not just be kind of labeled the Middle East a dangerous, violent place. Most people think of Jordan, and in London you say Jordan, and some people say, oh, I'm a bit worried about going, and you're thinking, why? But that's a perception, and that's what we need to do, both internally and externally. We have to work on that, and there's a lot to be done.